It was kind of cool because it opened up a lot of interesting design space.
We are talking with Aaron Mesburne, one of the designers behind Overboss, a boss monster adventure. This game was released in 2021. So, Aaron, tell us a little bit about the idea of the game and how you kind of started designing it.
Sure. So originally, it was about house plants and collecting house plants. It's kind of an abstract tile laying game, and house plants are something that's really near and dear to my heart. So we put it together and we pitched it to Brotherwise. And originally, they were all super into the theme, and everything was great. But then they decided to do a theme pivot very shortly after signing it, and they just thought it'd be a really cool idea to make it, sort of their next boss monster style game, because previously that only really been a card game series, and they wanted to expand their line a little bit. So originally they came to us with the idea of retheming it. That was something we hadn't really thought much about, but ultimately it was kind of cool because it opened up a lot of interesting design space that been previously, I don't know, not restricted, but just sort of pushed in a different direction, just because we were such sticklers to the plant theme.
When you guys were kind of developing that game and you did the pivot and you said it opened up some interesting things, what exactly did it open up?
So originally the terrain types were different types of plants, like succulent plants or foliage plants, or climbing or vining plants. Those were what the different land types previously were. And it was, we were running to a point where it was harder and harder to find different categories of plants that weren't really reaching. We wanted things to make sense. But once we switched to different types of terrain, there's so many different types of video game terrain. And a lot of that is really, it kind of opened up the design space and let us think about different mechanics that would make more sense, that previously didn't make as much sense when we were just sticking conservatively to this plant theme.
Originally, did you have anything similar to command cards? And can you explain what the command cards are?
Totally. So yeah, the command cards is totally an addition from the boss monster version of the game. The game that we pitched them was purely the base game as it's framed in the box, with just the 5 plant the terrain types that they have, and it was just a very simple, very straightforward kind of we were going for this like flow state kind of simple, fast, replayable kind of experience.
Yeah.
But ultimately simple. And on top of that, once the boss monster IP got layered on top, there was different considerations, because I like to think about things very much from like a product audience perspective. Like, what does this the audience of this particular property want? And if we're talking about the command card specifically, that was definitely, we knew that Boss Monster as a game is very much about player interaction. There's a lot of doing, it's embodied with you are a boss monster. You're doing cruel and terrible things and trying to do the best and not worrying about how other people feel. The command cards is a way to sort of add in a little bit more of that take that kind of gameplay. I mean, you can totally just use them yourself to manipulate your own board.
I think the command cards are good. And that's it. You brought up something interesting about the command card. So yeah, the command cards, you put them down in patterns, whether it's a 4 grid, and you can either trade a tile with somebody on somebody else's board. You can move a tile around your own board. You can just blow something up. That's an interesting point you made, though, how you can just kind of focus on your own board, or you can focus on other people's boards. When we've played it, we've just kind of gone after each other completely about it. So.
Yeah, that we found it drastically changed our gameplay. When we didn't use command cards, you were very much focused on the bands and trying to really build up your own board.
Yeah.
But the second that we added those command cards, I honestly forgot about my own board, and I cared about those Tetris, figuring out how to basically destroy his board.
She was seeing red.
Exactly. It was, how can I destroy his board and build up those Tetris patterns in order to attack?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this kind of segues into the topic you wanted to talk about different kinds of variable experiences in the game. And from the start, like even before this was, it turned into a boss monster adventure kind of experience, we thought very hard, like I wanted to create a game where you could have lots and lots of different kinds of plants. But people only have they only have a certain tolerance for complexity, or just keeping track of the kinds of things they need to keep track of in the game, like scoring mechanics or that kind of thing.
Sure.
So it was really important to think in terms of modularity and just the ability to easily swap out different, types of tiles or different components in the game. And once they switched to, a boss monster theme, and this was the boss monster game, there was the opportunity to add on, more kinds of modularity, more different experiences you could add on top, like the command cards and the boss cards with the different scoring conditions and the different powers and stuff like that. So I'd say that the key driver, I think, of variability and repeated gameplay in Overboss is the inherent modularity that we tried to build into the game, or at least that enabled us to more easily add on that kind of stuff.
When it comes to the game itself, I find a big thing with replayability, at least for myself, is getting into the game from a rules standpoint, being able to remember it 6 months later if I pull it back off the shelf. Sure. And setup and teardown. It seems like you've done a great job in terms of like the player aid sheet. So I assume, we've only had the game a week or so, but I assume when we come back to it, we just use that player aid, flip it over, and we know that's what a volcano tile does again. Mm-hmm. And the sorter is great as well because everything has its own little home. And even when you flip the cards, you can break it up and down. But was that kind of like a conscious decision when you guys were building the game out? What do we put in here to kind of get it to the table quicker and then also bring it back?
Yeah, that kind of that was definitely a lot of great work by Chris and Johnny, the Brotherwise guys. They put a lot of thought into the experience of opening the box and thinking about where all the components go. They worked with game trays and they created a really, really cool insert that a lot of people like.
About the quick reference sheet, was that something that you guys worked on, or?
No, that was I think there's more of a trend of having kind of quick start guides in games these days, and that's something that they were aware of and they decided to include, which I think is great.
Absolutely. And I mean, even on the Overboss website, the quick 4-minute video, if you're not necessarily the person to do the teaching, that is phenomenal to be able to put on to a new person to your group and just kind of give that introduction to the game. So it's an unbelievably approachable game for a new person.
Yeah, that was also one of our, design goals. We wanted to create an experience that was super easy to get into fast and playable by, people of all ages. I've heard really nice reports of, people with families, people with even younger kids than we expected to be able to play the game, picking it up really, really fast. And that's super validating. And we love hearing that.
Well, replayability, I mean, we've talked about the modularity and all of that. That's amazing. Do you have any other projects on the horizon, or are you looking at designing another game?
Well, the next game, actually, and Kevin helped out on this one too, is called Verdant. This is not with Brotherwise, but it's basically taking this love of plants. We're doing this with Flat Out Games.
Okay.
We recently announced this. It's basically a card game where you're basically collecting and curating and caring for all your houseplants.
Oh, awesome. So you are carrying that theme and all that research over into a different platform.
Oh yeah, they put a lot of time into looking up different plants and all their their needs and things like that. So I really wanted to take that information and make it into another product. Completely different gameplay, but it's very excited for that one as well.
Well, no, thank you very much. Thank you for talking to us about Overboss. We've given it our little replayability award because there's, as you said, modularity and lots of variety in the box.
Oh, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys, doing a deeper dive into it. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, we learned a lot. So thank you.